MouseHunt. Welcome to Feedback Friday. It is September 8th, 2023. Look at that, I got the date right. My name's Dave. Hello, everybody in the chat. Hope you are doing well. Hello, Sally, Sashi, Roxine, Chris. Good afternoon to you. Oh, Jonathan. Invest. How you doing? Mark. Hello to you. Michael, Sean. Hey, Scrib. Nice to see you. Vivi. Nice to see you. Daniel. Ryan. Michael. There's some dedicated MouseHunt musicians, eh? Good morning, Lady Nutsy as well. Hello, Chip. Sally. For the second time. Hello, Michelle. Nice to see you, Narwhal. Well, today I thought we'd share a little bit of brainstorming, ideation we'll be doing around Relic Hunter. I know typically the Relic Hunter season would be coming up in November. It'll probably be a little bit later. I think we're looking to maybe make some decisions and do some Relic Hunter related things in the new year, and even just start the conversation of whether the idea of the seasons, kind of reimagining that a little bit. But we also want to kind of give lots of time to absorb sentiments, feedback, do a little bit more design work. I get to sound my horn. Let's do that. There we go. Hey, all right. As well, just kind of take a little bit of look ahead to the roadmap as well. Halloween's coming around the corner. King's Giveaway is coming next week as well. We'll take one more quick little peek at that as well as a couple other projects that are wrapping up, and they're pretty close to seeing the light of day as well. Hey, Chow, welcome on in. Happy hunting, everyone. Hello to you as well. Well, again, brainstorming, ideation. It's often a time of year we start thinking a little bit about the Relic Hunter, and believe it or not, the Relic Hunter has existed for over a decade. So it is definitely some older content in the game. It was the very first iteration ever of treasure maps. And just one thing we've seen over the years is that the area-specific maps are certainly a lot more popular. And even just a sentiment that tends to come up every Relic Hunter season is everyone dives in, they do a lot of these maps to get the LE bases, and then they kind of don't really, a lot of hunters don't really want anything to do with the Relic Hunter maps after that. And so, we kind of parse that feedback and see that pattern emerging year after year, and, try to wrap our heads around, why is that? It almost feels like you're being bribed to go and do these maps versus them being a fun choice you make because you enjoy them, and they're rewarding. And the LE bases are certainly a difficult design space as well, where they need to be something that feels, is a little bit niche but exciting, but they can't be too good either, and so it's a tricky place to get right. And they're also, they often enough end up being a little bit underwhelming as well. So we wanted to think blank slate. We really asked ourselves, in 2023 here, in present day, if somebody pitched the Relic Hunter as an idea, would we go ahead with it? And, I don't know. I think it would probably hit the cutting room floor before it ever made its way out the door as a release. And, that's a bit of a sobering moment to kind of, maybe we go back to formula a little bit. Maybe not quite all that far, but just reevaluate it. Give ourselves a blank slate and do some ideation around, well, what could this Relic Hunter mouse be? What could be the identity of Relic Hunter maps now that area-specific maps exist? Because when the Relic Hunter was originally designed, that was it. It was the only type of map in the game, and it made a lot of sense. But, as area-specific maps have come out, and, it's clear players enjoy those a lot more. They're much more popular. What place in that hierarchy, in that loop, can we give the Relic Hunter? And so one discussion point that came up was kind of shift its identity to rather being something that you have to spend your relics on to do, something that becomes a source of relics. And that creates a bit of a closed loop that way. If you're out of relics, and I know a lot of people maybe hanging out right now, you're higher level hunters, you might have a pretty good stash of relics. But when you're first starting out, even in the mid game, relics are few and far between. So if these maps became a source of relics rather than a sink for them, it gives them an identity. Well, if I don't have relics and I don't want to go track down boss mice, or I don't want to wait for Ronza to show up with a jade scroll, or one of the other kind of niche sources of these relics, I have an avenue to pursue. I can go and do these Relic Hunter maps, amass my relics, and then go do area maps until I'm out of relics, and then do Relic Hunter maps to build my relics back up. It's kind of one more avenue. It kind of gives them a strong identity in the overall kind of loop of mapping, right? Rather than do I do this or that, they synergize. One thing is the result of doing another. And so we thought we might be onto something there. As well as the LE rewards specifically. It's always been, like I said, a challenging design space for us to find something that feels rewarding and meaningful, but they can't be absolutely game-breaking, best in slot, amazing. And that's very difficult. Those two design objectives are kind of at odds with one another. So again, just kind of going back with a blank page, thinking through things like maybe have a reward track, kind of similar. Hey, Halloween's around the corner, something that would be familiar to what you progress through during Halloween, and that opens up a lot more avenues where we can put more things on the reward track. It doesn't necessarily just need to be 2 bases, but can be things like a good bundle of ancient charms, rainbow charms, gold, maybe rare map dust, super brie, all these things that are kind of tied to the identity of the Relic Hunter, and we kind of have more moments where you get to claim something much more predictable as well, often a source of confusion and friction for players going through the Relic Hunter. Common questions that come up every season when it becomes sort of temporarily popular content for a short while is a lot of confusion around, well, when do I get these rewards? And how does this work? Every time you finish a map, you're more likely to find a base in your next chest, or every time you open up a chest, rather. Do I do a lot of easies, and then do I do a hard, etc. So we're brainstorming, workshopping around a little bit of that reward track where you just see a progress bar. It says, well, when the progress bar reaches this notch, you get to claim a reward from the interface. It also comes with a nice benefit of not having to season the chests every year. And it's often enough a source of confusion for players as well. You end up with lots of different types of chests, and they all have a year attached to them, remembering what's inside of each chest, etc. So all in all, just kind of, again, going back, doing some ideation of how can we clean up some of these rough edges around the Relic Hunter, things, we've typically seen confusion from players or some, negative feedback in terms of things to do with the Relic Hunters. Relic Hunter maps for Slayer scrolls. That's something else that already exists there as well. Like the elite maps are a source of the Slayer scrolls, and just, in general, you have a chance to find a Slayer in any of the Relic Hunters. So that is part of their identity. It's a bit of a long shot though as well. We did some ideation around. It'd be probably a little bit of a scope of initial changes to the Relic Hunter, but trying to add more agency of trying to pick your difficulty level. Whether it's, hey, if you find a medium, somehow you can upgrade it into a hard, and you can upgrade your hard into an arduous, etc. But the scope kind of crept up a little bit. There's some more interface considerations to be made there. We did workshop things where maybe one scroll for every difficulty level, and then you could go and just pick the scroll that you want. They all have different costs. But all kind of conversation points on the table as we do a little bit of ideation. Sid, what will gold and jade be used for then deprecated, eh? They'll have their own niche there. They certainly do reward relics, but they're kind of a temporary thing as well. But for sure, that kind of works well. Their identity is a way of, I can do a map and stock up on ancient relics. But if that works well enough in the overall cycle of everything, then it should probably be something that's more permanent, something you can access at all times. You don't have to wait for this once a year opportunity to pick up a few of them and then hope you don't run out. If that's fun and that's engaging, if that is a good way to stock up relics, well, I don't see a downside to just having that around at all times as well. And then that gives you choice of, well, what kind of map do you want to do? That's one more variable that factors into your decision-making process. If I'm low on relics, maybe I want us to do a few Relic Hunter maps and stockpile those back up. Or maybe you do a lot of, you hunt a lot of big game boss mice that drop relics, and you're good there. I kind of sustain my relics that way, and I would anticipate as you progress, you get closer to the end game, you get higher level, that becomes a little bit more viable. You find yourself hunting the mice that drop relics quite often enough. But thinking about kind of mid game, you're going through the tribal isles. You're a knight level hunter. Relics, when we kind of spot check a few accounts here and there, at that stage of the game, they have very, very few relics as well. But Tabu, you think it would be tragic for scavenger maps? They're a fun thing to do, but if all they're for is get relics, I'll clarify as well, in addition to all the other rewards. So it wouldn't be you finish a Relic Hunter map and you just get a bunch of relics. No, it'd be, all the other rewards, but that would be part of their identity now as well. So when you pop open the chest, you find some relics. And, I'm not talking thousands of relics or anything, but we'd have to kind of tune that a little bit. Do a little bit of play testing, but more difficult maps will give you more relics than doing an easier map. And I think any changes to the Relic Hunter map would apply to Scavenger map. So it's, subject to change in playtesting. But the two are kind of two sides of the same coin. And you can kind of pick the variety of map that you enjoy doing the best. So where you think the Golden Jade and the Rainbows need to go, eh? You don't think anyone really plays those apart from collectors. That's interesting food for thought as well. And, certainly the Golden Jade maps have been around for a long time as well. I don't see a downside to keeping them around because it's something you choose to pick up. But they would be kind of a slightly different flavor of Relic Hunter map at that point. Subject to if anything like this kind of ends up happening, their identities would certainly overlap. And so it's kind of some inspiration from those maps of, maybe they should share some of that identity with Relic Hunter maps. Mad Cat collectors will be happy if the chests don't have to be seasoned, eh? Yeah, exactly. That's also a bit of it's an interesting goal to set for yourself for sure. But it can also be a slight point of friction or confusion, especially as the years go by. There's a lot of very similarly named items, and you might be kind of just like playing Minesweeper, trying not to open up the wrong chest when you're browsing your inventory. It can be a little precarious at times. Rainbow maps were a blast, but the rewards need some touching up. That might be fair as well, and it might be a little bit late for this year's giveaway, but definitely rainbow charms are a big part of their identity. You kind of skip to the best type, and they're not the most difficult map to do either. So, but we'll see. They could need maybe a little bit of touching up, but I imagine still for kind of those mid game hunters, if you're all the way at Folklore Forest, I could see the rainbow maps not being the most rewarding for you. But sometimes different levels of maps are appealing to different levels of players. Jonathan, the season bases were a good idea. Seems one of the few ways to get bases into the game. Well, it definitely takes up some of that reward space. It's maybe space we could use for events, but it's always difficult. It's a difficult spot to be in where rather than starting with a fun, good idea for a reward and then finding where to put it, often enough, Relic Hunter, to be fair, events suffer from this a little bit as well. You're starting with the other way around. It's like you have a journey and you're trying to find, well, where should it lead to? What should the reward be? Things tend to work a lot better when it starts the other way around. There's a really good idea for a base or a reward or an ability or whatever it happens to be. And then you're trying to find a home for it. That's a much better, more natural fit. The episodic content, the releases, the adventures, they tend to have that natural ebb and flow that way. It's a lot easier to pace the upgrades and the equipment that way. Whereas events and, the Relic Hunter comes along and often it's like, well, even if there might be a good idea, but the timing isn't right for it. So you're ideating, you're trying to find ideas for other bases. And that's why sometimes they're a little underwhelming is at the end of the day, it's just you have to go with something rather than waiting for a good idea, then finding a home for it. You start with, well, something needs to go in this blank spot, and you just kind of throw things at the wall, and even if nothing's sticking, you still have to end up going with something. Yeah, Swift Relic Hunter maps are one of the few sources, but I think those are apples and oranges here. I don't think it's necessarily related. If Relic Hunter kind of doesn't reward LE bases, and then a conversation of, well, when should LE bases come into existence and where should they be? I think those are two separate points. They don't necessarily need to be interconnected, right? Just because we take them out of the Relic Hunter doesn't mean, that's the decision of no more bases ever again. So, I don't think that's the case. It would instead give us a lot more freedom to add them in the places where they make sense. Whether they're from permanent content, whether they're title appropriate. It's another challenging design space for the Relic Hunter is they have to be bases that are kind of approachable and applicable to any level of hunter. Whether you're doing an easy level Relic Hunter map or you're doing an elite, you're getting the same bases out of that. And just as the years go by and the game gets larger and larger, that gets harder and harder to design for. So it'd be a lot better to be able to get those special effect bases, the living base. You earn it from the Rift, and so that naturally adds it to kind of a title gate to it. And you can balance it for a specific hunter in mind rather than have to design something that appeals to everybody is very, very difficult versus narrowing those in. If it has a special effect in an area, well, maybe you should just be able to earn it from that area. The iceberg as well. We added a new base to the iceberg and you earn it at the iceberg. And that just kind of flows a lot better. Odds are if you're at the iceberg and you're enjoying it, or you're chasing King's Crowns, you're really camped out there for a long time, then you earn something to get better at the iceberg versus then, you earn it in the meadow doing easy maps and then you just get this base that you can't use for a very long time. And, I think it all contributes to some of the impressions of things being a little either underwhelming or feeling a little out of place at times. Yeah, Sid, do you think the loot is bad for low, medium, and hard maps? Doesn't make sense without the LE base. I'd assume you're a bit of a higher level player as well. So that kind of makes sense. When you sort of outgrow that difficulty, the reward should start to feel a little underwhelming, right? Like, just like if you went back to the meta and be like, you know what, the mice aren't worth a lot of points and gold here. I think maybe we should buff the points and gold in the meadow to make them, a little bit more rewarding. Because otherwise, when I go to the beanstalk, the mice are worth so much more. So it's natural. You should outgrow those tiers of rewards as you level up, and you're kind of done with them in a way. And it goes back to that point said earlier where they're popular for a short period of time. Everyone wants to get the bases, whether you want to use them or not, or just collect them. And then you're kind of done with it. The sentiment we see is, I don't want to do these maps. And so, I phrase it just feels like a very unfun design. It's almost like you're being bribed. Like, go do these maps to get the space. You may have to do 1, you may have to do 30. You don't know what the journey's going to be. And you don't want to do it, but it's kind of fear of missing out is what's driving the motivation to do them, rather than being a fun choice. And so that's kind of part of the motivation to going back, doing some ideation around it. Seeing if we give ourselves a bit of a blank slate, can we come up with something that we would pitch today versus something that in 2012 when the Relic Hunter came out made sense for the game then, but 11 years has passed, and as with many things, it just kind of doesn't make sense anymore. But it doesn't age quite as gracefully. At least older areas in the game are still played by low-level players, so they kind of stand the test of time a little bit better than something that the Relic Hunter kind of grows with the player, right? Whether you're a journeyman or you're a viceroy, you're kind of doing, Relic Hunter type stuff. Maybe a higher tier rainbow map next year. Then Rainbow Charms lost a lot since they became purchasable in the floating islands. Yeah, that's fair as well. What if they dropped relic coins that could be redeemed by function equivalent reskin versions of the old LE? Well, alas, I don't really want to start the conversation of limited edition items coming back. I feel like that's a whole other conversation, and kind of, at least for now, that's the rule of the game. Limited edition means that they don't come back. Could the bases be purchased with relics instead of a direct reward from the map? I think that might fall kind of flat, right? Because they're released and then you just go buy them and you're done. There's no journey to it. And, fair enough. I think it's okay if some things might work like that. But ideally there should be a fun journey to go on, and then you reach your destination and you find something cool versus, just on release day, hey, do you have 50 relics? Cool. Check mark, done. And then even still, I think that would exasperate the problem where they'd be even more underwhelming, because literally it's something that you don't even need to necessarily embark upon an adventure or a journey to earn, which means it's probably going to be even a less of an impactful base to begin with. Yeah, some LE bases are really amazing. Stinks if you miss them. And that's fair. That's the nature of some of the limited edition equipment. And I think kind of the approach that's worked reasonably well over the years is adding a permanent equivalent. If you think about the hothouse base versus the living base, etc. And so it's good food for thought. Often it's a little bit of a testing ground with some of the LE bases or LE effects. And we can kind of see, well, maybe we can give them a permanent home in the base. Or in the game, sorry. Yes, and it's fair. Some of the bases, they are fun. They kind of breathe new life into lower level areas. But a challenge it becomes in the hands of a lower level player. Maybe you're a little bit over kitted for the area if you have it then, which can be fun. But it's also difficult, right, to keep coming up with year after year after year what's a compelling fun effect. And you just kind of shoehorn because you have to, even if there's not really a good idea or it's not the right time for that idea, you're just forced into that space. And I think that's why they end up being a little bit underwhelming. Jonathan, will the changes also remove the inventory limit on Relic Hunter scroll cases? Most likely, most likely. So, kind of last point here is that the Relic Hunter currently steals a relic and leaves a map, which is a little bit weird as well and inconsistent with the very concept of mice drop loot in the game. And really, there was a max inventory quantity added on these scrolls because some hunters want to stockpile their relics to buy area-specific maps, and it's a little bit annoying when you're just hunting and the relic hunter starts stealing them and leaves a scroll that you have no interest in. And so if the relic hunter no longer stole a relic, there wouldn't be a need for that. Kind of is like a band-aid solution there, so we could probably lift the cap then. Yeah, Michael, you think the reward should be diverse, avoid two bases that benefit one general area. I think it still doesn't solve the problem of there isn't always a compelling, something. It's tricky to try to come up with something that's literally meant to appeal to everyone. It tends to water it down. It'd be better to have a larger variety of specialized things so everyone kind of picks their favorite flavor. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be vanilla. You can kind of have a larger selection and then everyone can kind of find something they enjoy that way. And so again, just kind of the core issue of the Relic Hunter bases are they really are something that applies to the entire game. So it has to be something that appeals to everyone, but it can't be too good, can't be too bad. And I think it just ends up being kind of flavorless that way versus saving those spots. If it's a cool piece of equipment, you could find a home in an area where you unlock it by doing some feat in an area, going on a specific journey. Then it can be tailored for that title of hunter. It can be tailored to suit the design of that area as well, rather than just kind of randomly popping out of a treasure chest. It can be part of the journey of that area, whether it's something you spend some area resources on from something specific. But kind of point being, you can put gameplay, you can make a whole journey around it that isn't just the same year after year. It's, well, do maps and randomly you may get this. Yeah, Relic Hunter Aura, and that was something we were considered as well. We've reached a little bit of the limit of how many auras the game can support right now, and it's something we want to be cautious with as well. In that the more of them there are, the less special each one becomes, and so don't want to kind of slowly creep into territory where you have 20 auras running or something might be a little bit of cognitive overload. Yeah, that I think it's a whole other conversation. Basically, we're not considering bringing back limited edition items, so that's kind of just it's off the table. So I don't. I think it's a whole other conversation. Any sort of pitch that involves all the previous bases being added to a shop somewhere, I mean, it's a conversation maybe for another day. But basically, that means limited edition items come back. Which at least for now that's the rule. That's what those items mean, is that when they're here, and when they're gone, you can't get them anymore. So, not a change we're considering right now. Rachel, what if the LE-based stats were dependent on your level? It's difficult because it's often they get paired with a special effect. Special effect often has a purpose in one specific area, so it's not usually a plus 10 luck base does the trick in some of those low and mid game areas. So I think it goes beyond stats. Usually it's the last thing you look at when you're looking at these bases. Daniel, when will the Folklore Forest mice go onto the Relic Hunter map? The Relic Hunter maps only go up to Archduke, so that's why no Viceroy locations have been added to them. It might be a while. We need more Viceroy locations before we can start thinking about that tier of map. But that's basically what that means. When you open up, the most difficult Relic Hunter map should be able to be completed by someone Archduke or Archduchess is kind of the title cap on those maps. So if a Viceroy map showed up, a Archduke would be stuck. You couldn't finish your map that you just received. So that's just going to be just like Archduke mice. It took a while for Archduke mice to appear on Relic Hunter maps. Same goes for Viceroy. Well, again, just kind of wanted to touch base a little bit on this. It is very much still a little ideation, brainstorming. Trying to, again, not trying to make the Relic Hunter a super important, significant part of the overall mapping, but trying to give it a home. At least have it targeted toward someone specific, I think would dramatically help. Right now, it has to work whether you just started playing 2 days ago or whether you started playing 10 years ago. The Relic Hunter has to make sense. That's very, very difficult, as you can imagine, to come up with something that's going to work. And so, just still very much in the ideation phase here, but trying to reimagine it kind of how we would in the more modern times in the game, as the Relic Hunter is over 10 years old. It predates the area-specific maps, and as the years go by, its rough edges are starting to show a little bit. But we can look ahead a little bit into the roadmap as well, just to kind of wrap things up. You can kind of look at what's coming in the more immediate future. Relic Hunter is sort of on pause, like it's in that kind of design phase. The Season 10, for all intents and purposes, I really don't think it's going to come to an end in November. I think we're going to kind of flesh things out a little bit more and think about just the future of the Relic Hunter in general. And that's something we'll probably slate in for next year to make some decisions on, which raises the question of what's going on for the rest of the year here. And one thing is the King's giveaway. So if you missed on the fan page posting that, it will begin on September 12th. The King's giveaway will begin. And as we've kind of shown some little previews of the King's giveaway on previous Feedback Fridays as well, absorbed a lot of the feedback. One of the big sentiments and one of the big pieces of feedback we wanted to address with the giveaway before we ran it again was that the mini prize packs were very underwhelming. It felt like the event just kind of started and it ended awfully fast, because you'd have those 10 big prize packs, you'd open them all up, and essentially the event's over at that point for the most part. Basically, all the excitement is done, and it's just kind of, you're just waiting for it to end and the UI to go away. So we've flipped the script, and at least in playtesting, this has felt a lot more fun. There's a lot more fun feelings of anticipation, where instead you open up 10 small packs to open up one big one, rather than open up 10 big ones and then open up limitless small ones. And it has more, paces it a lot nicer, and you still end up with, being able to open up at least 10, maybe even more meaningful big prize packs. But there's a lot more agency to it as well. Kind of grabbed a screenshot of one visit to the King's Vault. I will say this is probably one of the less exciting visits to the Vault, which is maybe an okay one to share here as well. But it kind of had these idea of 3 slots, where one of them's currency, and for the most part that's going to be King's credits, but you can get gold as well. But gold's probably not the most exciting thing to show up. The credits are a little bit, they have more subjective value to them. So different quantities of King's credits can show up. The middle slot is very Regal charm based. You can find different tiers of Regal charms in different quantities, as well as maybe a few special charms showing up there. And the last slot, relics, are one that's probably a little bit less exciting. It's a little subjective, I suppose. That's where the Rainbow Scroll can show up. The Rainbow Scroll case has a pretty good chance of showing up in that slot. So, odds are, if you're worried if I'm not going to be able to grab one scroll case this year, if you're reasonably active, it will show up often enough that you can pick the scroll case. Or if you do happen to like them, maybe you're a little bit lower level hunter and you want to pick up a few of them, that might be a good way for you to get some rainbow charms. But if you're a higher level hunter, you probably aren't too interested in the rainbow scroll cases. But there's relics as well that can show up as an option that can help you buy more title appropriate maps as well. Jonathan, Leprechaun's the only event mouse you don't have. MouseHunt's a game of patience and perseverance. And it took me quite a while. I didn't think I'd ever get one either, but it took over a decade. And it took, I think, 10 or 11 misses before one fell into my trap. And eventually it happens. At least that's the hope. Daniel, will the King's Cart be updated? Typically when we run a giveaway, we do look at the King's Cart. We've taken a look, and there's just kind of nothing that's quite time appropriate yet to add. So nothing new coming to the King's Cart. It was updated, has some floating islands things in there, but nothing for the Folklore Forest yet. Probably just the time isn't quite right for it. Thedo, will the Relic Hunter season won't be ending in November? I don't want to officially say no, but that is the intention right now. The intention is the season won't come to an end because we want to reimagine it. We basically don't want to do the same thing we did last November. And, we'd rather not rush it. That's often what leads to problems as well. It's one of those rough edges with the Relic Hunter season is you have to just, nope, even if there's nothing, if the timing isn't right, you got to do it, right? So, yeah, the intention is it won't come to an end in November. We want to kind of just reevaluate the Relic Hunter as a whole, give it a new identity, and, goals, hopefully next year we can make some decisions. Yeah, Mad Cat, that's certainly fair as well. Like kind of the sporadic nature of the Relic Hunter makes it a little bit difficult to track down, and it's showing its age a little bit there. It made a lot of sense 11 years ago. Areas didn't really have phases to them. It was the only map you could get in the game, so it felt very special and rewarding. And so it fit the nature of how the areas work. The Relic Hunter Mouse, for the most part, never really got in your way because areas worked through primarily loot-based progression. And so losing one hunt wasn't a very big deal often. And even when you did, you got the scroll case that you otherwise there was no other way to get it. It was the only way you could possibly do a map. So again, that's one of those rough edges. Just as the years have gone by, the Relic Hunter maps have kind of shown their age. They're a little less popular and a little less fun, and the area-specific maps are a lot more fun. Disboard, do you have to visit the King's Vault to continue collecting small prizes? I probably should have set up a demo. That would have been awfully smart of me. I don't think I can do that quite on the fly. So it's not that big of a change. You still hunt for the prize mice who drop keys. Even regular mice have a small chance of dropping keys as well. So every time you sound the horn, you can find a prize key. You can have 0, you could have 500 keys, you can have whatever. You can just keep collecting those keys as long as the giveaway is active. Then you open up this interface. You can use 1 key to open up 10 small prize packs. You got to use 10 keys to open up 10 packs. Then you get to visit the vault. Visiting the vault doesn't cost a key. It's basically like a free open of something much more rewarding. So the small prize packs are just little small nice to haves. They add up over time, but each one on their own isn't particularly valuable. You spend those 10 keys, and bam, you get to visit the vault. Pick 1 of 3 prizes, then the vault doors close, and you got to open up 10 small prize packs to go back. So if you had 90 keys, you could spend 10 to open up the 10 packs, visit the vault. Then immediately spend another 10, open up the packs. Even part of the interface, it does have a open remaining, so you don't have to click all 10 of the small packs. You can just click once, all 10 of them pop open. You get a little summary of everything you found. You can visit the vault. But yeah, fair enough. Maybe I should have had a quick little demo, especially because it's just around the corner. Oh, sign there noticing that, yes, that is an ultimate Regal charm, so figured, you may as well complete the set, as well as the stats are being adjusted. I think the basic Regal charms have come down ever so slightly in power. They have the same luck. The supers have come down just a little bit as well. The extremes, though, oh, sorry, no, they've come up. They've come up. I'm looking at this backwards here. The supers will have 1 more luck than they used to. The basics have a little bit more power. Yeah, I thought I was reading this backwards. I definitely was. So the basics have a little bit more power. The supers have 1 more luck and a little bit more power. The extremes have quite a bit more luck. They're now going to be a 12 luck charm. And they have a little bit more power as well. And the new ultimate luck will kind of fill a bit of a missing slot in terms of charm hierarchies, and they will have 18 luck, 4,000 power, 10% power bonus. So there'll be an 18 luck charm with a pretty good amount of power. So they'll be decent. You'll also be able to upgrade them like you can the other charms using your King's credits. And that's one thing as well, depending on how many credits you have. Certainly if you've been playing for several years, you may have a pretty good stash of credits on you. But, if you have a smaller amount of King's credits, that becomes an interesting thing. When you visit the vault, you may have you might start to stockpile a lot of the low tier Regal charms, and that might mean you need to start picking the King's credits when they show up. They'll show up over here instead of gold sometimes, so that you can upgrade them into the more powerful Regal charms. Elusive, you can't remember what the Rainbow Treasure Chest rewards. Well, they are a source of the Rainbow Charm, but definitely, I think there's something that maybe appeals to more mid-game hunters. That said, they're pretty straightforward as well. It's a good way. You can get your clue counts up. They're usually not the most challenging of maps, but they're quite epic. They have quite a few mice on them. Eric, why not make Ellie bases not Ellie? Alas, I think that's a completely different conversation right now. There's no intention to go back and make Ellie items not Ellie. Yeah, that's not saying it'll never happen, but basically it's not a conversation we're having right now. John, you're having a hard time pumping the bland queso. It does take a little bit of time, that's for sure. Maps are definitely a good way to get some bland queso. But definitely it takes a little bit of time. It is a pretty big epic, one of those large areas, and it's one of the bigger areas that you can really sink your teeth into for a while. And then there's other areas that go a little bit quicker. So there's something for everybody that way. But hopefully, at least depending what your goals are. If you have the medium-term goal of unlocking areas, maybe moving on to the next thing, kind of depends. If you're looking to capture all the mice once, it might be something you might consider coming back later, right? Kind of you can circle back, come back with better equipment. So is it possible to have Relic Hunter map parallel to area-specific maps? Yeah, not quite something we're looking to consider either. I mean, it definitely changes the sort of feeling, the pacing of maps where you kind of are constantly doing 2 maps at a time. I don't know, just want to be a little careful around that. Don't want to add kind of overload of there's just too many things to manage all at once. Eileen, your map wish list includes a better chance of having Slayer from the Gilded. That's definitely been some feedback over the years. It's something difficult to change now. I think the takeaway we took away from that is kind of obtaining something that has a chance to have something else can, it's a double-edged sword. It can both be exciting, but it can be disappointing as well. And it kind of comes down to the identity. And I think a lot of times the Gilded map, it took over the identity of those maps. And they're kind of in that sweet spot where you've got a pretty good chance of getting a Slayer. So it's not rare, but it's not common. And so I think that contributed to it sort of taking over the identity of those maps. Is like, well, these give you Slayer maps. And so we have a few other ideas cooking there in terms of maybe the Gilded coins being an avenue to obtaining Slayer scroll cases. I don't know, there's a few other things that we're workshopping. But again, all the more reason why we're kind of taking our time a little bit, flesh out what the future of the Relic Hunter could be. So, what is the attraction rate on the Ultimate Regal? Is it 100%? I believe so. I believe the Ultimate Regal Charm will have a 100% attraction rate bonus. Not that it's the most significant stat in the game. It's probably the least important stat your trap has. And partly, too, of why we're kind of phasing that out in the long term anyway. But that kind of sums up the King's giveaway. I wanted to kind of give one more run through, just to add a little bit of closure to where everything landed there. Fair enough. I probably should have done a quick little demo. I think that would have been fun, but what time is it? I don't know if let's see here. Can I possibly? Let's see if this is going to work. Bear with me. We'll even try to do a quick little demo of this. We'll do it live. I am totally in the wrong browser to log into this. Ooh, it's kind of working. All right, here we go. Let's do a demo. Unless anyone's strongly opposed, we're going to go for it. What's the worst that can happen with a live demo, right? All right, we got to sign in, though. Look at that. We are in. All right, let's see. Is this going to work? Fingers crossed, everybody. Moment of truth. It is maybe not working. Let's see here. Web browser. Ooh, it's kind of working, but it's not quite set up right. We're going for it. Edge of your seat here. Never a dull moment. We're setting things up. Where are those filters? All right, let's just tidy this up a little bit here. Hey, almost. All right, just it's kind of cropped weird. Oh. Okay, I'll call this good enough for putting it together on a whim. All right, let's start hunting. Let's start hunting. Woo, we're hunting quick. Look at that go. Why do we have 300 prize keys? I think we're good to go. That's a lot. Yeah, so hopefully this clears up any confusion about can I keep collecting these packs. So you don't get the packs as loot drops, you get keys, and keys are how you open up just the small packs. So you can open them up one at a time. And again, you don't find anything massive. It'll add up over the course of 2 weeks. But certainly these are the small prizes that lead up to bigger prizes. You can open them up one at a time. Or, hey, there's 7 left to go. I can just click one button, open them all up at once. Cool. A lot of Regal charms, King's credits. You're getting a trickle of okay stuff. But then you get to visit the vault. And this is a little bit cut off, forgive me, because I set this up awfully quickly. And then you just get to choose one thing from the vault. So I'm going to take the 500 King's credits, because that's a lot of credits. I'm going to take that. Yay. You got that. And then you're back at the small packs. And you got to open up 10 to be able to visit the vault again. I'm going to take the credits. Take the credits. Let's do one more. And you see too, kind of as you get in the swing of things, if you have a good stockpile of keys, you get to go back often enough. You know what? Let's take the ultimate charms this time. Let's do one more. I think I gotta take that ultimate charm. We'll take an ultimate charm. So that's kind of a quick little demo of what to expect in the King's giveaway. And a lot of what's in the vault was inspiration from what the prize packs had in previous iterations of the giveaway. It's just kind of spread them out over the whole vault. The overall goal was to end up with maybe about the same depending on the choices that you make, but you also get to go in previous versions of the giveaway. You only got 10 of those really good packs. Now there's no limit to how many times you can visit the vault. That said, the event only lasts for 2 weeks. There's kind of a theoretical max you could reach, but you get to go often enough. Yep, Fleming, welcome on in. Indeed, 2 weeks the giveaway will run for, unless I'm sorely mistaken, but I'm pretty sure it's 2 weeks. Keep the ultimate charm. That one's a no-brainer. When that one shows up, I think it is hard to imagine not picking it. But it might depend. If you're a little bit of a lower level hunter, it might be a while before we can find a really good use for that charm. I don't know, but I think I would still pick it. All right, well, how are we on time here? We're ticking away here. We should speed things up. I also wanted to touch base as well. Previous Feedback Fridays was showing Dev Chris has been putting a lot of hard work into these modular HUDs, and we call them modular because part of the design objective here was to add some tools that'll make it easy for us to go back to some of these early game areas and just add some resource management HUDs. Just let you kind of see all the numbers go up. At a glance, you can see how many tokens you have. You can craft your cheese without having to navigate deep into your recipe book. Just kind of shortcuts for everything, smooth everything out. Things have come together quite well. We're kind of just putting a pin in it, or rather wrapping it up. That's the wrong expression. We're wrapping everything up next week. We got to prepare a little bit of a news post, get the mobile builds organized, etc. But those have progressed well, so I want to give a quick little update on where those are at. Those are coming in the not too distant future. And then one other little project that we've been kind of on and off. It's been a bit of a lower priority thing, but the team has been picking it back up when they can. You may have remembered months and months ago there are some concerns of whether or not the game would be available or would be temporarily unavailable on Facebook for a short while. And that really highlighted how a lot of players, if you've been playing for a long time and you originally signed up when the game was just a Facebook game and you couldn't play on MouseHuntGame.com, you didn't have a username. And there was a little bit of a scary moment there. Well, if the game's temporarily not available on Facebook, which there's a possibility that could happen again down the road. If you don't have a username and password, you just would not be able to access your account or play the game. So we want to add a little bit of an incentive, a little bit of a reward for making sure go through those steps, set up your username and your password, verify your email address. So if you need password recovery, if you need anything like that, making sure that there's no typos in your email or it's not set to something that you've long stopped using, as well as smaller rewards thrown in. You subscribe to the mailing list. You're free to unsubscribe after you claim the reward, by all means as well. And just 25 King's credits, just a small, thank you if you want to keep up to date on all the latest news. That's a great way for, especially if you don't play quite as actively, to get a quick announcement when new things come into the game. And we like to think we don't send too many emails. As well as installing the mobile app as well, just helping you whether you're playing on the go or just one more source where you can access your account. If there's ever kind of, again, challenges, whether it's Facebook outages, whether there's any kind of problems accessing the game, it's nice to have it from more than one place as well. So, that's kind of getting wrapped up. It's been going through a few test cycles a little bit, but it's getting there. Lynn, what if you've already done these things? Then you'll show up and all those start buttons will just be claim buttons. You can just claim it and you're done. That said, the verified email is a brand new system, so nobody has a verified email. Basically, when you click the button, we'll send an email to the account that you have set on in the settings. You click a link that verifies that, yes, you are the owner of that email, and then you get to claim your reward. Username and password, though, if you already have one set up, the start button will just be a claim. Similar to the mobile app, I think that should just work. I think we already have that little flag on your account. As soon as you boot up the mobile app, kind of says, yep, you've used the mobile app at least once. You've logged in via the mobile app. So you should be able to claim that right away. As well as the subscribe, that technically already exists. You can go into settings, you can see or subscribe to the newsletter. It uses the same thing there to check. Yeah, thanks, Michelle, chiming in there. If you drop a line of support can help if you're having a little bit of trouble signing up. There's a few other ways to go about it as well, but sometimes, ad blockers can play nice with that as well. A few different things. Ice, if I've already done all that, can I still get some rewards? Absolutely. Yeah, I'll reiterate. If you've already done any of these steps, at least the ones that you can already do, it's just a claim button. You're good to go. You can just claim it without having to do anything. Which may lead us into this week's trivia. Do we think I hid the answer? I'm going to check before I flip over, because maybe I didn't. Hey, I did. All right. Give myself some more credit. This week's trivia question is, what was the first ever area-specific map and chest? And it's going a ways back. It came out shortly after the Relic Hunter. And it kind of, set the stage a little bit. It was kind of programmed in a bit of a different way. That's evolved over the years. But, well, that took no time at all. Came with the correct answer. It is indeed the Living Garden map with the living chest. The Living Garden was the first area to have an area-specific map. And for a long time, it was kind of the only area-specific map. Kind of took a little bit to add some more. And kind of the system had to be overhauled to make it easier to add different types of maps, even. Both in terms of gameplay experience, the Relic Hunter is kind of showing its age a little bit. Feels a little bit, antiquated. Not quite how something might work in 2023. More like how something would work in 2010. Or 2010. I'm just flying into the future here. And on the code side of things as well, it works in a little bit of an older way as well. The chest looks so cool, eh? Let me put this in the chat for your clicking convenience as well. We'll copy paste this. Here you go, Roxanne knows. 2010. Let's hope MouseHunt's still going in that year. Don't think any of us will be around to see it though, Roxanne, unless there's some medical breakthroughs. I don't think we'll be around to be hunting, but generations after us have to keep the mouse hunting going. Looking back at 2010 already, eh? That'll be a while. Hopefully the game's just full immersion at that point. Who knows? Swift Wait, isn't the dragon chest technically a chest? Fair enough. It's not a treasure map treasure chest, though. It isn't a treasure chest you get by completing a map. That's what we're going for. But yeah, I think the dragon chest, yeah, the mysterious box was probably around. I don't know if you want to call that a treasure chest. I guess it's themed a little differently. That's a living chest. You're correct. You know what? That is a living chest. That's not a living garden treasure chest. Uh-oh. I've been had. You are correct. You think I would be awfully familiar with what one of those looks like. But you're right. I was past the wrong asset. Uh-oh. Oh, well. We get to enjoy how awesome the living chest looks. All right. It's spiky and awesome. Popcorn, you have a Halloween scroll from 2014. Eh? Well, you can still use them during Halloween, although sometimes it's fun to hold on to. It's almost like a little bit of a keepsake item. But, you know, they'll work. They have Halloween mice on them, so if you wait for Halloween, you can pop it open. You'll just maybe get a bit of an odd reward for finishing the map, but you could still finish it. How do you open the living chest without pricking yourself on one of those spikes, eh? Very carefully. It looks like it has a handle. I'd say it has a small handle on that leaf, if I had to guess. If I had to guess. But alas, yep, that is not a living chest. Or that is not the Living Garden treasure map chest. Gloves. There you go. Fleming's using their head with gloves. But yeah, that's about it. Here's a quick little recap. Again, you know, this is just coming down the pipeline. We're doing a little bit of testing, but that's getting oh so close. Actually, we're hoping we're going to be able to bundle it with the same release that these modular HUDs come to mobile. And again, the design objective there is to build some tools that allow us to just add these almost like little widgets. But we wanted to keep the scope small, do a little bit of a test run. So it's just mobile and it's just for Roma right now. See if the tools all work well, you know, get some feedback. And then if everything's good, it's hopefully the type of thing we can easily pick it back up. You know, somebody's got a week or two and it's like, oh, I'm not quite sure what to do this week. Awesome. Let's go build a HUD for, you know, tribal isles HUDs could work this way, right? It's all just resource management. It's all loot based and crafting. So you just could go back to some of those areas that just don't have those HUDs, be able to add them a little bit easier by having some new tools in the toolbox. And of course, keep your eye open for the Kings giveaway. It's going to be starting September 12th. Everything's looking good. New format. Hopefully, we've kind of addressed some of the feedback. But, you know, as always, too, when an event runs, events are great for that. And we just kind of keep a little notepad going. We jot down a lot of feedback. And then, you know, a few months before we're going to do a similar event, we get to open up all those notes from the last time the event ran and look through what things we want to adjust based on feedback. So, you know, it'll be exciting to see a new iteration of the Kings giveaway, but, you know, just keep in mind too, hey, we'll keep our ear to the ground. And if there's anything that needs adjustment for the next giveaway after that as well. Might be stretching the definition of a handle, eh? Amaran, are you worried about releasing too many high-luck charms in the game? There's no reason now to hunt with anything less than rainbow. I think that might be through the lens of a very experienced high-level hunter. One of the goals, you know, Dev Jake put a lot of time and effort into it. Over the years, just the magnitude of charms has grown in the game. So we did a bit of a charm overhaul. And, you know, it wasn't completely extensive to cover every charm, but we wanted to identify those really sort of important identity charms. You may notice the charm shops all got their stock you know, redone. We redid the curve of what the stat progression looks like between a lot of charms, and I think we're pretty happy with how it turned out. Seems like players have adjusted to it well also and seem pretty happy with it. And so, you know, the Regal charms fit that role as well. They're basically like a slightly better charm than you could get in the charm shop, kind of for the most part. The ultimate maybe isn't quite as up there, but I think they kind of fill that one more spot. There's a few things we're still thinking on. We're pretty happy with where Ancients are, where the regular Luck Power and Lucky Power landed. Even the, kind of up it when you upgrade your Ancients into Rainbows, into Spores, kind of want to expand that a little bit. But just have room to grow for different level of hunters. But certainly, yeah, there's not much reason to use low power charms, just like there's not much reason to arm your 500-pound Spike Crusher once you're a Viceroy. There isn't too much use for that trap anymore. And that's perfectly natural. That's intentional. You should outgrow certain equipment and not have to use it anymore and move on to more appropriate equipment. You know, there you go. Crayon says, I only have 10 rainbow charms. Well, there you go. There's different things for different people. And it depends on your play style, right? If you don't do a lot of maps to stockpile a lot of ancient charms, then you might not have a lot of rainbow charms, and the giveaway is a great chance to do some rainbow scrolls, get a few rainbow charms. But if you do a lot of maps and you have a lot of rainbow charms already, well, cool. Now even the giveaway, you don't have to have a rainbow scroll from the giveaway. You can pick other things. And that's a fair point, Keem, as well there. If you know you're in an area where you only need a certain amount of luck, if you can kind of min luck all the mice, then you can sort of save some of your resources that way. Use a lower tier charm because it's kind of overkill. It's like, I don't need 74 luck to capture the mice here. I only need 36, so I can arm a charm that's maybe a little bit more plentiful, easier to come across. 500-pound Spike Crusher sounds expensive. I guess that has a little bit of a double meaning in terms of currency. We're talking about weight, though. Eric, how about the nanny bot, eh? Nathan, will we see eggs in the beanstalk for upgrading ultimate spores? Current options are very limiting. No, right now the only thing you can do with eggs long term is get geese. At least for the moment, you can get gold, and then you can buy charms off the marketplace with the gold that you sell the goose for. So that's kind of the only plan for them in the immediate future. Beer, don't remind us about the nanny bot, eh? Alas, eventually there's some long-term plans to kind of eventually phase that out, but we'll see. Would you consider adding a set bonus for the Refactor series? Probably not. Eileen, you only have 859 rainbow charms, but you have over 100,000 ultimate ancient charms. Maybe time to upgrade some. You can upgrade them at the floating islands, right? Pretty sure you can. But ultimate ancients, those are a good burner charm as well. When you kind of go to some lower level areas, it's just kind of a nice, if you do a lot of maps, it's a plentiful, throw it on the trap and I'm going to be stronger, decent stats. But that might do it for me, hunters. Thanks for joining me. Have yourself a fantastic weekend. Happy hunting again. Next week, Tuesday, September 12th. That should be a Tuesday. I'm tempting fate here by remembering what day of the week that is, but I'm pretty sure that's Tuesday. The King's giveaway will fire up. It'll last for 2 weeks. There's a little bit of a shutdown phase to it as well. It works a little bit differently. Keep your eyes open for that. But thank you for joining me, hunters. Have yourself a fantastic weekend. Happy hunting, and I'll see you next time.
You're a trap, don't seem to mind it. You attract me. I'm a mouse, you're a cat. I don't seem to mind it. Soft and furry. Oh, and just when I think I'm safe, snap. Turns out I'm never safe, snap. Just when you think you're safe, snap. I come back. You don't seem to mind it, but I'm a fool. Broke my back. You don't seem to mind it, 'cause you're so cool. And just when I think I'm safe, snap. Turns out I'm never safe, snap. Ooh. And just when you think you're safe, snap. Turns out I'm never safe, snap. Ooh. Just when I think I'm safe, oh. Turns out I'm never safe. Oh, just when you think you're safe, it turns out I'm never safe. Whoa. Turns out I'm never safe.